You don't think I'm the Herald of Andraste?
I think you were sent to help us. I hope you were. But the Maker's help takes many forms. Sometimes it's difficult to discern who it truly benefits, or how.
What's going to happen now?
Now, we deal with the Chantry's panic over you before they do even more harm. Then we close the breach. We are the only ones who can. After that, we find out who is responsible for this chaos, and we end them. And if there are consequences to be paid for what I have done, I pay them. I only pray the price is not too high.
Elle definitely is growing a very quick respect for Cassandra, probably even faster than even Art. I think I see these two being BFFs pretty quickly.
You didn't have any choice.
Didn't I? My trainers always said, Cassandra, you are too brash. You must think before you act. I see what must be done, and I do it. I see no point in running around in circles like a dog chasing its tail. But I misjudged you in the beginning, did I not? I thought the answer was before me, clear as day. I cannot afford to be so careless again.
It wasn't like you had no reason to suspect me.
I was determined to have someone answer for what happened. Anyone. You've said you believe you're chosen. Does that mean you believe in the Maker?
I do not know. No, I believe in Elven God. She's gonna say yes. She's gonna say yes.
I believe he exists.
You do? I'm surprised, but I suppose it's comforting.
I can see it being a surprise.
Put us both on this path for a reason. Now it simply remains to see where it leads us.
This is cool. So now they have something in common that they can talk about. They have some common ground.
I don't actually
that they're
know
both
much about you.
women of the faith of the Maker.
I'm not sure. Where are you from?
Make something up. Just tell her.
My clan never stayed in one place for long, though we primarily roamed the free marches.
Oh? I didn't think your people roamed that far north. But clearly I'm mistaken. I'm told some members of your clan might still be alive. Do you intend to go back?
None of your business. I'd go now if I had a choice. Home is wherever I am, eventually perhaps. I think that she felt like she never truly belonged with her clan. I think this is her honest answer. Yeah. Whenever eventually perhaps home is... I think if she was being truly honest with herself, she never felt like she truly belonged in with the Labellin clan.
If I ever go back, it'll be too soon.
Really? That is good to know, I suppose.
I'm enjoying this opportunity. It's really good that they ask us these kind of questions, because it forces me, the player, to think about aspects of my character that I may not have thought about. So it forces me to help define who my Inquisitor is. So bringing these questions up this early, and it makes sense too, because the NPCs themselves are trying to get to know, my character naturally, because I'm still kind of a total stranger to them. So it's a really great way that the writers allow both of us to get acquainted with who our Inquisitor actually is. Tell me about yourself, Cassandra.
I'd like to get to know you better.
You would?
Is that a problem?
Not entirely. I'm just curious as to your motivation.
No motivation beyond making things between us less
antagonistic?
Exactly.
As you wish. My name is Cassandra Pentecost, daughter of the Royal House of Navarra, 78th in line for the Navarran throne. I joined the Seekers of Truth as a young woman, and was with the Order until they withdrew from the Chantry. I remained as the Divine's right hand, carrying out her order to form the Inquisition. And here we are. That's all there is to know, my lady.
You're a member of Navarra's royal family.
The Pentaghasts are a very large clan. Half of Cumberland could say the same.
Really?
No, but it feels that way. I have hundreds of relatives so distant they need charts to prove we're related at all. And they have them. Oh yes. The Pentaghasts value their precious blood like it runs with gold.
And you joined the Seekers to get away from that?
It was a life worth getting away from. The Pentaghasts are famed for dragon hunting, but few actually pursue the craft. Most are fat and lazy. They pay lip service to the Maker and care only for idle pleasures and past glories. My brother was all that kept me in Navarra. Once he was gone, so was I.
Sorry to hear about that.
Tell me about your brother.
Anthony was older than I, a dragon hunter, who showed what a Pentaghast could truly be. I idolized him. I wanted to hunt dragons as he did, even though our uncle forbade it. Anthony promised to train me in secret. We would hunt together one day, brother and sister, vanquishing the beasts of old. And then he died on me.
I don't remember Cassandra opening up about her brother this soon, with even art. That's pretty cool. I feel like maybe I have gotten enough approval rating from her that, or affinity. I'm still on Fallout 4 terminology. Enough affinity to have her be able to open up this quickly.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have pried.
No, it's fine. A group of apostates wanted dragon blood, and wanted Anthony to get it for them. He refused,
Right.
and they killed him for it. In front of me. I begged the Chantry to let me become a Templar. Instead, they sent me to the Seekers. It took many years to let go of my drive for vengeance.
I think I understand how you felt.
At times I could not breathe. The rage nearly choked me. I sometimes wonder how different my life would be if Anthony was still alive. Would I be a dragon hunter? Married to some noble fool, a mother of 3? I cannot say. I take solace in believing the Maker has a plan, but he is not always kind.
You don't seem to like your homeland much.
My family polluted it for me. What little I saw of my homeland was through the bars of a gilded cage. My uncle treated me like a porcelain doll to be placed on a shelf and dusted only when necessary. Thus I did not see Navarra, the real Navarra, until much later. By then I realized I knew it not at all.
Your uncle? What about your parents?
They had the misfortune of taking the wrong side in the second attempt to overthrow King Marcus. The king executed them, but spared my brother and I since we were family, and children at the time. Thus we were raised by my uncle, a Mortalitasi who preferred the company of his corpses to the living.
Oh, I completely forgot that he was a Mortalitasi.
Your uncle was a Mortalitasi?
A death mage. He still is. My countrymen do not burn the dead, they bury them in special crypts. The Mortalitasi supervise the crypts, like priests. Uncle Vestalis oversees the grand necropolis. Navarrans spend more time honoring dead relatives than they do with living ones. It is odd to be so fascinated with death and its trappings. I will never understand it.
So you were the right hand to the Divine?
To Divine Justinia, yes. And Divine Beatrix before her, in fact. The position is normally reserved for Templars of the Knights Divine, but my circumstances were unusual.
Unusual how?
You don't know the story? Thank the Maker. I will tell you if you wish, but it isn't as exciting as some drum it up to be. The short version is that I once saved the previous Divine's life. My reward was becoming her right hand.
But what does a right hand do, exactly?
What is your hand capable of? It gives, it takes, it beckons. It makes a fist. Leliana and I extended the Divine's reach beyond the Grand Cathedral. We went where she could not. After Beatrix, I was tired of the position and wanted to return to the Seekers. But Justinia convinced me to stay. Her vision for the future gave me hope.
You thought she could really change things?
Justinian knew the war was coming long before it began. She tried to avert it, but the forces arrayed against her were too strong. Sometimes you have to break a bone so it can be reset. That's where the Inquisition comes in. It was to be the answer. A means to preserve as well as an agent for change. I only wish she had lived to see it.
I'm really loving the feeling of sisterhood between these two women. Because, yes, Art and Cassandra became very close, and then Andy and Cassandra became close at the end. But there's just something about playing a female Inquisitor and interacting with Cassandra, or just in general, playing a female Inquisitor and interacting with the other characters, that it has a different feel to it. And right now I'm feeling a really awesome sense of sisterhood between these two.
So, what's the story about you becoming the right hand?
Sweet Andraste, do you really want to hear that? It was, what, 18, 20 years ago? Some still discuss it like it happened yesterday. The tale gets bigger each time it's told. I barely recognize myself within it now.
I'm sure you're just being modest.
I was there. I think I know what happened. To hear others tell it, I alone saved Divine Beatrix from a horde of dragons sent to assault the Grand Cathedral. Rather impressive for such a young seeker, wouldn't you say?
And the truth is?
I stumbled upon a conspiracy to kill Beatrix. A Templar Knight Commander was at its heart. And there was a dragon battle at the Grand Cathedral, but I had help from loyal mages who rallied to the cause. They freed the dragons from magical control. Without them, the Divine and I would both have died. Yet I became the right hand, and they are forgotten.
You're delightful. What became of the mages?
What happened to the mages that helped you?
They went back to their circles, with rewards and privileges and Most Holy's gratitude. Many of them died at the conclave.
I think you're a hero, no matter how you downplay it.
Fine. But it was 20 years ago. I will not rest upon my laurels.
I'll
That's
let
all
you
for
get
now.
back to work.
I love talking to
Yes.
Cassandra. Even now, I love talking to her. Talk about the Chantry.
May I ask you about the Chantry?
It is difficult to say what becomes of the Chantry now. They have no Templars, no leadership, and no one left who is worthy of succeeding the Divine. It has fallen apart when everyone needs it the most. I ache to think what this will mean in the days to come.
I'm surprised you rebelled against the Chantry.
I left my own order when they took the wrong path. It is no different. But in neither case did I stop caring. Indeed, I care so much that I feel drastic action is necessary. I suppose history shall one day judge my actions.
Will the Chantry replace Divine Justinia?
They will try. Once the priests withdraw for the Grand Consensus, it is against Chantry law for them to emerge without naming a new Divine. Sometimes it takes days, or weeks, or even months. The problem now is that no clear successor to Justinia exists. All worthy clerics died with her at the conclave.
So what happens if they can't agree on someone?
Theoretically, they will argue until exhaustion takes them or they see reason. Practically, however, if the Grand Consensus goes on too long, the Chantry will crumble. Any cleric with ambition but little sense will see this as her one chance, and plenty of such clerics exist. We shall see what happens. The Inquisition must act in the meantime.
If they do choose a new Divine, will you serve her?
That depends on whether she would have me. I am a rebel now, remember? And even if she would, I do not know. It would depend on what type of Divine she is. I am no longer in a position to follow blindly, and no new Divine could expect such obedience now.
Do you really believe the Chantry is worth preserving?
I do. Though I understand how someone born outside of human society might think otherwise.
Well, she didn't say
Chantry
that.
aside and new problems replace old ones. We will have learned nothing from history. The people need stability, and the Chantry needs a new purpose. Andraste had a dream for us. It can still be achieved.
So, what should this new purpose be?
A dedication to what is truly important. Instead of building cathedrals and sewing gowns for the divine, the Chantry used to spend its coin feeding the poor. If we are to spread the Maker's word across the world, we must do so with open hearts and open hands.
And I think that Elle can definitely get behind that.
What influence does Chancellor Roderick really wield?
He's a bureaucrat, responsible for communicating the divine's will to the rest of the Chantry. Therefore, he's accustomed to the clerics hanging on his every word, hoping his influence will benefit them. Despite that, Roderick is not a bad man. He's frightened, and believes his place is to fill the gap left by Most Holy's death. Some might agree. As far down the chain of command as he is, there is no one left above him.
How big a problem could he be?
No more than he is already. He sent his message to the College of Clerics. That is the only card he had to play. Dealing with him further only lends him credibility he doesn't deserve.
I think that's good for now.
Is there anything you need?
One more thing. Tell me about the
Can you tell me
Seekers.
more about the Seekers?
The Seekers of Truth were born from the original Inquisition long ago, when it united with the Chantry. Seekers stood above the Templars, watching over them but also investigating magical events they couldn't handle. We were meant to be incorruptible, above reproach. How seldom does reality match the ideal?
But what are Seekers exactly?
Those who know anything of us think we are Templars. We do not use Lyrium, however. Our abilities are different, as was our original purpose. We disciplined the Templars and were accountable only to the Divine, and not even her, truthfully.
So the Seekers commanded the Templars?
No, the Order didn't assume command until after the rebellion. The Templars have always feared us. When a Seeker arrived at a circle, they knew trouble was afoot. That kind of power is troubling. You begin to think you are the only one who can solve the world's problems. If you don't see a problem, it doesn't exist. If someone insists it does, they are the blind ones.
Right.
Do you think that kind of problem could ever be fixed?
Possibly. Though the Seekers themselves would need to change. They were clearly not willing to, even though they abandoned everything they stood for to avoid it. In my heart, I believe they can still be salvaged, but not by their own hands.
How does someone become a Seeker?
Most Seekers begin training in their youth. I was much older, an exception due to my noble birth. We train rigorously for years. Our bodies and minds must be elastic to undergo the vigil, and most fail even then.
Is the vigil some kind of initiation?
It is the rite every Seeker must go through in order to summon their gifts. A full year of fasting, prayer, and separation from all distractions, including other people. We empty ourselves of all emotion, focusing only on the purity of our devotion. And the moment it finally ends, it's wonderful. Faith realized. I cannot put it into words.
I wish I could experience that.
If the vigil was not so arduous, I'd say more should attempt it. What if mages never needed to fear possession by demons? I'm told it is impossible, however. I suppose I'll never know the truth of it now.
Why did your order turn against the Chantry?
We originally united with the Chantry through a treaty that stated they would keep mages under control. It was felt Most Holy had tacitly allowed the Circle of Magi to vote on its independence, thus breaking the treaty. The Seekers saw themselves as justified, and they led the Templars into a war of righteousness.
You sound like you disagree.
We knew what was happening at Kirkwall, where the Mage Rebellion began. We looked into reports of Knight Commander Meredith's harsh treatment of her charges years earlier. But we found so many shocking cases of magical corruption, it was decided her actions were justified. If we'd been there when it happened, if we'd looked harder at the root causes...
You're right. Something should have been done.
When faced with a problem, the Seekers would close ranks and crush it. We would find an answer, but only once we felt we weren't being coerced. The moment the mages voted for independence, our response was predictable. It was difficult to watch.
You mentioned that Seekers have different abilities than Templars.
Entirely. A Templar's abilities come from lyrium and are designed to hunt mages. Ours come from ritual and many years of dedicated training. We cannot be possessed by demons and are immune to mind control. Useful considering our role. Seekers can gain other gifts, though that depends on the individual.
What kind of gifts do you have?
I can set the lyrium within a person's blood aflame. Both mages and Templars bend before my will. Some Seekers use it to interrogate, others simply to paralyze. Once there was a Seeker who could use it to kill. That particular gift is considered rare.
I've no more questions.
Do you think the mages will be able to seal the breach?
Blessed are the peacekeepers, the champions of the just. Blessed are the righteous, the lights in the shadow. In their blood, the Maker's will is written. Is that what you want from us? Blood. To die so that your will is done? Is death your only blessing?
You speak for Andraste, no? What does the Maker's prophet have to say about all of this? What's his game?
So I want to touch base with something, and I do want to talk about. I have to warn you, it touches the thing about it touches on religion, and this is my view. So don't let this. Hopefully, I don't offend anyone because it's completely how I see things. A lot of people like to blame, if you believed in a higher power, God, for example. They try to say, you know, God doesn't care because why would God let all of these horrible things happen? You know, they might say God doesn't really exist because if God really existed and he's as wonderful as a lot of people claim he is, why do so many horrible things in the world happen? So many horrific things happen. And, well, for one, the belief is we are given free will for a reason. And, you know, at the end of the day, we get to choose we make our own decisions. And sometimes people can make some really horrible decisions that are very harmful to other people, hurtful to other people, sometimes in very lethal ways. And, you know, because we have that free will, a lot of bad things can and do happen because in human nature, we can be very selfish, we can be very hateful. Obviously, there's a lot of good things that come from humanity, but humanity definitely has a dark side too. And so there are many things that happen not because God wanted it to happen that way, but because he allows us the free will and the freedom to ultimately decide on our actions. Then, of course, the argument is, well, how about all of the things that have nothing to do with anything that any single person does, like for example, weather, like tragedies based on weather, like hurricanes and floods and all these things that kill a lot of people. And, you know, you could argue, well, a lot of that has to do with, sure, I mean, nature has a lot of things to do with that, and that's just in the physical world, because I do think that science and religion can go hand in hand. You know, the physical world, the way science works in the world, also has its own free will too. You know, like the weather's going to do what the weather's going to do. And it's not necessarily anyone's fault per se. so people are like, so what good is God then, or a higher being, if he doesn't prevent a lot of these things from happening, and he doesn't stop like wars or horrible murders or rape or war or hate crimes? What good is he if he doesn't intervene? And to that I say, it's not his job to make our life better. Like, that's not, hear me out, it's not his job to make our life better. I think that as Christians, we believe that every now and then he might intervene a little bit. Every now and then he might, pull the strings of reality a little bit, because we believe he cares, because we believe he wants us to be happy as much as possible. And, every now and then he'll intervene and do what many people refer to as miracles, or having your answers our prayers answered, excuse me. But ultimately, that's not his main purpose, is not to make our lives easier all the time, because life is not meant to be easy. What he's supposed to do more than that is he's supposed to take care of us in the afterlife. Many of us believe that this isn't it. A lot of Christians like to believe that there's more to our existence than just this existence in our life. And we like to believe that there might be a better place, or at least something different that is just as good or better than where we are now, that we move on to when we die. And, the reason why we try to live our lives the way that we live is so that we are allowed to go to whatever the afterlife might be, the heaven, the fade, whatever you might call it, because we hope that we will be allowed into this, paradise up in the sky. And that's the part that is the important thing, is that no matter how horrible of a life you might have an incredibly horrific life filled with hardship and everything. The world could be completely against you and completely troll you, but once you die, the hope is that you are rewarded, and that you end up moving on to a better place, which ends up being eternal, forever, far longer than the amount of time that you spend living. Because if you do believe in an afterlife, and you do believe that this afterlife lasts forever, then the amount of time that it takes for you to live in this life is so tiny. It's like insignificantly tiny, at least in comparison to eternity. So, if you want to look at it as, why is God not intervening to make that tiny, tiny, tiny amount of time, easier for us or matter for us, it's because in the grand scheme of things, in the grand picture, that's not the important thing. It's what happens after you die. So, I mean, that's how I'd like to see it. It's what I personally believe. And I guess for people who don't believe in an afterlife, for people who think that this is the only existence that we're given, and once we're dead is dead, and I totally understand people who believe that. And in fact, I actually respect people who believe that, because when they do good things, when they are good people, when they are trying to follow in their lifestyle in ways that just happen to align with what Christianity or any organized religion thinks is the good lifestyle to live as human beings, and if you live this lifestyle, you'll be rewarded into heaven or whatever. I have so much of respect for people who don't believe that there is an afterlife, because they're good people because they want to be good people. They do the right thing because they want to do the right thing, not because they feel like by doing so they'll end up going to heaven, or they'll end up being rewarded for it in that way. You know what I'm saying? So I have so much respect for people who live their lives as good people, or who do the right thing because it's the right thing, because they want to be a good person, not because, oh, if I do this, I'll end up in heaven, or if I do this, then, you know, I'll get X, Y, and Z in the next life. That to me is amazing. And I'd like to hope that even though I am a Christian, that is the main motivation of me trying to be a good person too. It's not because if I do it, then I'll get rewarded for it, or I'll get something out of it. It's because if I do it, because I just want to be a good person, and you want to make everything that you do in your life count. So, but anyway, back to what I was saying. If you don't believe in the afterlife, then yeah, I totally understand people getting upset as to, these people who believe in God, well, if they believe in God, why doesn't he intervene to make sure that these horrible things don't happen, especially things that have nothing to do with human actions? I totally get that, and honestly, I don't have a specific answer for you, because I do believe that there is an afterlife, and I do believe that the time that we spend on this earth in our life is so insignificantly tiny compared to what I believe is ultimately going to happen when I leave this existence, and go into an eternity of something that's more that's just more than my existence now. So, sorry to talk your ear off, especially if religion is normally not something that you like to talk about, but it's something that I was thinking about while I'm listening to this conversation with Leliana, of how she's blaming the Maker and all that good stuff. And the Maker is based off of like a Christian God, but not completely. There's a lot of things about the Maker that's different from the God that we as Christians see and believe in. But it's I can't help but see some of the similarities in the arguments that are being made during this conversation.